Now, in most industries, it ranges anywhere between 4 and 6 referrals per satisfied client. I actually think that Micheal, when he wrote the book, The Ultimate Question, actually left off a category. So The Ultimate Question was a great book by Micheal that said after the experience is over, there's only 1 or 2 questions you want to know from the client. Number 1, on a scale of 1 to 10, how satisfied with you? Anybody remember this? And he said 1 to 4 were detractors, and 4 to 6 were passives, and 7 or 8 to 10s were promoters. I actually think he left a category out. Advocates. Advocates are people who fight for you when you're not there. I think left to their own devices, a promoter only promotes you when solicited. So are they really fighting for you if they have to be asked? I want you to think about that. There's a great Harvard Business Review article about this, that he talked about passives, detractors, passives, and promoters. I actually think there are detractors, passives, promoters, and advocates. So what I'm looking for is a person who will absolutely fight for me in the market. They won't bring me 1 to 2 to 3 referrals. They're typically bringing us 5.7 referrals off every great transaction. They're not just satisfied. They're on a scale of 1 to 10, how did you like it? They say, shoot, 15, man. If I could score 15, I'd give you a 15. You see the difference here? And so we'll talk about that. Now, I'm going to stop there and ask you a question. Out of those 4 big missing structures, you say, how does this tie into this concept? When you learn how to drive up your person of interest score, and you are known by either a niche of people or the masses, what does that do to the sales cycle in general as it relates to all of 4 of these?
Puts pressure on it.
That's right. Compresses it. Because here's what's happening. They're calling you. See, when I first started selling, here's the advice I got. Now I want you to think about this. I was a high school basketball coach. I worked 80 hours a week every week. I worked 8 hours a day on Sunday. When I started, they had never won a championship. It took me 10 years to take this little pitiful team to a dominant force in the world. And I worked 80 hours a week every week, right? And then so people began to come to me and they say, now, what are you doing with these kids? Because it's working. And I didn't have time to tell them. I'm like, I don't have time. I'm trying to win championships. Let me just write a book on it, and you can read the book. And I'll tell you in the book what I'm doing with these kids. Now, what was I doing? I was a disciple of Covey. So Covey's who I studied the most from 18 to 25. I'm a big believer in the whole person theory, body, mind, heart, and spirit, everything I do. So I was doing success academies every day with my players, growing their knowledge, their skill, their desire, and their confidence. How does that translate to winning? My players were smarter than other people's players. They were more connected. They had higher emotional intelligence. They had higher IQ. So we would go out and win, and there were games on the schedule. Now think about you versus your competition. There were games on the schedule that I would look at and say, we may or may not win that game. They're actually more talented than us. They actually have more experience than us. Sound like some of your competitors? They may actually have bigger budgets than us. How do we beat those people? And I would say the only way to beat those people is this much. Is it in emotional intelligence? Is it in confidence? Where is the differential advantage between me versus someone who's actually better than me? From a talent perspective. That's just body, by the way. That's just one dimension of a person's nature. So I said, what if we're more connected? What if we have higher trust levels? What if we have higher emotional intelligence, bounce back? What if we're just believing each other more? And so we begin to win those games, and people said, man, what are you doing? I said, just read the book and I'll show you. Just read the book, man, because I'm coaching, right? Then 1 book turned into 2, and 2 turned into 3, and now 3's turned into 12. But my point is, after I won a championship, I stepped back and I retired at 31 years old from coaching. And I said, I'm going to start my own little consulting business. This is back in the day when Tim and I first met. And then I started going to successful people, and I said, how do I grow this business? Guess what they told me? This is what they told me to do. Well, you have to call 100 people a week. You got to hand out business cards to everybody without creating any value. Just leave with the business card. I had to join the local chamber, some type of civic or organizational, right? And here's the big one. Just go out there. I heard this one a lot. Just get your name out there. Just get your name out there. Now, what do you mean? Like, who am I supposed to call? I would say, who am I supposed to call? You know what they would say? Just anybody. Don't matter. Just call somebody. Doesn't matter if they're qualified, not qualified. And so this is a lot of the bad business advice that I got when I first started. And then one day on a napkin in a restaurant, we have these Cracker Barrels in the South, if you've ever eaten at one. And I said, man, chasing anything sucks. How do I build a business that attracts people to me. And it's so attractive, we have so many leads that we can't even handle all the leads that we get. How do I attract these people? Well, straight out of Jim Rohn, to attract other people, we must become what? Attractive. And that's not in how handsome or beautiful you are. That is in what kind of energy you put out. So I started saying, how do I back up and really go to work in creating value? So out of those 4 big missing structures, which one do you think you struggle with the most? Number 1, explanation of services. I'm talking about, and when I show you a good EOS, you may come back and go, we need work there. Because a lot of people discount that one. They say, oh, our pitch is tight, our pitch is very good. How do I know how good your pitch is? How many times does it work? What kind of feedback do you really get? Not do you think it's good, do they think it's good, right? So I'll show you a framework we use on that one. So how many people think explanation services could use work? Okay, all right, good there.
You ask any of us what we do, on a personal or professional
Yep.
level, it's difficult for us to articulate what we really do. Within a concise,
Yeah.
you used to say the elevator pitch.
Yeah.
In less than 5 seconds.
Yeah.
You'd say what you do.
And the elevator pitch has one flaw. It doesn't ask for the business. So a good EOS is I lead with what I believe. Because of that belief, let me tell you what it is we do. Let me tell you how we do it a little bit different than everybody else. Let me tell you everybody we've done it for. If I could do this for you like I've done for all these other people, what would stop us from moving forward with each other? I typically know quickly. See the difference? So if I was at an event and you asked me what I do for a living, I would say, well, let me back up and first tell you what I believe before I tell you what I do. And I may say, I believe everybody needs a good coach in life. Have you ever had a good coach? And I would know right then, right? Now, if I didn't want to talk to you, like sometimes when I'm on an airplane and the person beside me says, what do you do? I say, I'm a life coach. And that just ends the whole conversation, right? Because I'm not really a life coach and I don't want to be a life coach. But when I say that, that ends the conversation. And sometimes I say that just to end the conversation. Okay? But if I'm interested, I'll say, well, let me back up and tell you what I believe. Okay? I believe this, I believe this. There's really 4 core beliefs that I have. Because of that belief, let me tell you what it is I do. Right? Okay? So EOS is 1. How many of you think the selling system is a missing structure that you have to feel? Okay? Now think about calculated, coordinated probability. How many of you believe selling is a game of probability? I do. If you study probability, I know I had a class in probability when I was working on my PhD, and man, I was miserable. Hated that class, but I did learn something. One thing, you know what I learned? Anything's possible. When you study probability, anything is possible. When you're selling, selling is a game of probability. Okay, how many of you think follow-up is the missing structure? Okay, now there's a lot of hands go up on that one. Tell me why. And I don't care if it's a $1 billion company that I'm coaching, they're weak in one of these 4 areas. Okay, when I give them the missing structure, it's because I believe people are more motivated psychologically by what they'll lose than what they'll gain. So I show you first where you're losing money. And I say, look, it doesn't matter who I'm coaching, how big or how small. One-person entrepreneur to a multi-billion-dollar company. There's one of these 4 areas that we're missing and losing money in. And almost everybody will say, we're weak right here. So a lot of hands went up in follow-up. Talk to me about that one. About where it is versus what you think it should be.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Where did you come up with 7 to 15?
I just stats. 83% of all stats are made up, by the way.
Yeah.
So, but when I look at most industries, most sales experts would say 7 to 15, 80% of the time. Some people say 12. I actually think I go 7 touches just because I believe that we're in a current of the urgent. What I'm really trying to do is maybe I had Tim's attention and then I lost it. It's not that he didn't want to do business with me. He's just focused on other things. And because of that, he's vacillating back and forth between I'm a priority, I'm not a priority. I'm a priority, I'm not a priority. So I go 7 touches before I have a hard conversation. I say, Tim, have you noticed how hard we have worked to earn your business? Has anybody else worked this hard? And typically people say, no, nobody else has worked this hard. Or I say, I take full responsibility. I've done a poor job of articulating our services because if I'd done a good job, you would have taken action by now. So I go 7 touches and then I have that, right, hard punch. Okay? All right, so talk to me about the follow-up. Where do you guys think we're missing? And all progress starts by telling the truth. I think we learned that in Strategic Coach, didn't we?
Yeah.
That's one I've used over the years. All progress starts by telling the truth. Where do you think the followers?
It's courage.
Say again?
I think it's courage.
Yep, okay.
You know, I think you think that the person on the other end somehow doesn't like you.
Yeah.
Or somehow, you know, they're working against me. I don't know what
Right.
it is, but, you know, I think it's courage.
Is it not rooted in a fear of rejection?
Absolutely,
Okay.
because it's psychologically much easier to have a perception of you had
Yeah.
a great meeting.
Right.
And to keep this positive idea of what the potential or where it's gonna
Mhm.
happen to lead to.
Mhm.
And when you start asking for feedback, you're gonna get reality.
Yeah.
And you may or may not like it.
Yeah. I wrote a book on this called Swag. That's a slang term for confidence. And I wrote that book, and I just want to say this because this is very critical to follow up. And it sounds very controversial when I say it, but I want you to hear me out on what I'm saying. I don't think there's any such thing as rejection. They may want something different than what you have, but that does not mean they're rejecting you. Everybody with me here? And I learned that because at 25 years old, I bought an engagement ring to marry a high school sweetheart. And between the time I bought the ring and I proposed to her, she broke up with me. And it was a devastating day for me. And you've really not done a lot of things until you've taken an engagement ring back. And they asked me at the jeweler, which I had to take a credit card out to buy the ring, by the way, because I didn't have enough money. They asked me when I got to the jeweler, why are you bringing the ring back? And I was like, I will punch you in the face. Why do you think I'm bringing it back, right? She said no. Okay? So what happened is I went into a complete downward spiral. Now, I want you to remember, I was the head coach of the second largest high school in Tennessee. I had to be Mr. Motivation. And I went into a deep depression. When I say deep depression, I mean couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. For 6 months to a year, I woke up every morning sick to my stomach completely. I thought in some warped way I had created this. When the reality is it just wasn't a good fit. You with me here? So as I'm going through this cycle, I have a friend that comes along and she says to me, you're looking at this all wrong. You believe she rejected you. And I said, well, how else would you take this? I wanted to marry her. She did not want to marry me. She rejected me. She said, no. She said, there is no such thing as rejection. She may want something different than what you have to offer. But there will be lots of people that want exactly what you have to offer. Now, wasn't that good advice? And I would go on to marry the person I was really supposed to marry, which is my wife today. Everybody follow me here? Now, how does that serve me 15 years later in sales? I pick up that phone and will call anybody, because if they say no, they're not rejecting me. They just want something different than what I have to offer. If I choose McDonald's over Burger King, am I rejecting Burger King? No, I just want something different than what they had. So when you get this in your brain, this follow-up is I have so much conviction. How many of you have conviction about your product or service?
Yeah.
See, I want you to think this. You've had some revelation. Revelation's that big aha moment. That's why you're sitting here. That's why you're in your role. You've had a revelation. It's like, man, this could be big. Because of that revelation, you now have conviction. Because of that conviction, you are now taking action. Because of that conviction, you're now taking action. So when I don't push hard to get you to buy my product or service, I actually think it's because I don't believe enough in me. Because if I believed enough in me, I would push you hard. I believe at my core that every person on planet Earth needs a coach in their life. I believe a good coach will have conversations with you you don't want to have. I think they'll make you do some things you don't want to do, but a good coach will help you become something you did not think you could become. Now, what if I said I kind of believe it? So when I follow up with you, if you tell me you don't want it, I go, okay. See, when I come at you, I'm coming. And if you don't want it, then that's okay. I'm not looking for everybody. I'm only looking for people who are looking for me. You with me? See, once you make up your mind, I'm only looking for people who are looking for me. But when you indicate interest, when did I know if you're interested or not? When did I make up my mind about if I was going to pursue you 7 touches?
The feedback,
In the first 15 seconds, typically. And if you indicate interest, man, I'm going the distance. I'm going 7 to 15 touches. I may make up in my mind that I do not want to pursue you. And you say, so what I've learned to do is I've learned to listen to people's language. right? I'm speaking to all the top State Farm agents in the country once, and it's like the top 25 agents in the company. I know they're the top 25 agents. I know who's number 1. I know who's number 25. And when I'm done, the number 1 agent comes up to me and he says, "Coach, this was good, man. This was really good for everybody else in the room." I mean, you do know I'm the number 1 agent in the country, right? And I said, "Sure." I looked at the feedback. I looked at the notes, and congratulations on being number 1. Well, everything you said was really good, though. Those other people probably really need this. What did he tell me in the first 15 seconds? You don't need me. And here's the worst part about it. He sat beside me at lunch and told me for the next hour how good he was. Till I finally said, "Look, I love the fact that you're number 1, man, but I have some prospects in this room who really need my services, okay? And I need to talk to the people who are humble, right? Because I think you missed a class in humility." So but my point is, so the 15 touches, the 7 touches, don't think of the follow-up. Think of it as, I believe in linear and nonlinear touches. And a linear touch is where I come straight at you and ask for the business. Have you seen enough to take action? Have you seen enough to make a decision? And you may see enough to take action in the very first meeting. Yes or no?
Yeah.
Some people just keep selling.
Yeah.
Look, he's seen enough to take action. She's seen enough to take action. Ask them. Have you seen enough to take action? If I'm on the phone on the sales call, first phone call, have you seen enough to take action? Some people go, "I have. Let's go." Sometimes, "No, I haven't." Great. Let's keep going then. So when I come back at you, I come linear, straight at you, and I ask for the business. And then I come nonlinear, which means I send you things that make you think. I may send you a download. I may send you a podcast. I may send you something to make you think. Hey, take a look at this and let's talk about it. Hey, look at what I did for another client. Let's talk about it. I've thought about 3 ways that I can help you do this, this, and this. Now let's discuss. That's a nonlinear touch. So don't think of every touch as right? Every touch is not a knockout punch. I do believe I jab, nonlinear. I jab, and then about every 4th punch, I throw a big hook. You follow me here? So we'll work on that one today. All right, what about the extraction of referrals? How many people think that's a problem? Okay, we got 1 here. Anybody else? Why do you think that one's a problem?
I never asked for referrals.
Okay, why not?
That's a good question. I don't know.
You have conviction about the product, service? When is the best time to ask, by the way? When is the best time? I know they're going to give me a board. Can you see if they're going to give me a board? Because I want to draw this up in just a minute, please. Thank you, Phil. When is the best time to ask? I just want to draw some things up on the sales cycle. When is the best time to ask for referrals?
After they buy?
Okay. When? How fast after they buy?
Oh, right after they buy.
I think the highest point of energy is when?
Close.
In the beginning. I think it's always in the beginning. Now, if you study what I'm talking about with what Weikert's talking about, if Tim buys, the highest point of energy is in the beginning. So what I say, if this was valuable for you, who else can this be valuable for? Who else do I need to be helping? Sometimes I say this, I believe, and you'll hear me do this a lot. I use I believe before a lot of things. I believe like gravitates toward like. I believe association breeds assimilation. Okay, if it was up to me, I'd take 100 of you. But I can't get 100 of you, but I can take some of your friends. I believe like gravitates toward like. I believe referability is when great people go tell other great people how great you were. So I'm asking right in the beginning of the sales cycle. I'm teaching my sales team in the beginning to be asking for referrals, because when you look at numbers, people tell off. If you live with anybody long enough, you'll find something you don't like about them. Yes?
Absolutely.
So in the beginning, the energy's good. So when I sign people up to my coaching program, Monster Producer, which is my version of Strategic Coach, we're asking for referrals in the first 30, 60, 90 days. These 2 guys are 2 of my clients. How many referrals do you bring me in the first couple of weeks, Phil? In the first couple of weeks. First week, he says, the best decision I've ever made when it comes to coaching. He's already bringing me people to the next class.
Because you're giving a plane flight.
Yeah, I did put him on my plane. But I put him on the plane after he sent me all the referrals, right? But my point is, I believe that early on is when we should be asking. The way we should ask is, if this was valuable for you, who else do we need to be helping? Like gravitates toward like. Who else like you do I need to be working with? Okay? Now, if we just went to work, if I added a 5th component to what I just shared with you, the 5th missing structure I think salespeople have is this one right here. It's person of interest. And I don't think you're really ready to be a person of interest until you have these things in order. Everybody with me? So look at it this way. I believe money follows, wrong direction there. I believe money follows these things. Okay. I believe money follows energy. I believe money follows circulation. There we go. Okay, let's see if we can get it up here. I believe money follows energy. Money follows circulation. There we go. See? This is what I think money follows. They see that? Money follows attention. The biggest challenge for most people is not that they're not really good. What is the biggest challenge? They're obscure. That means you're really good, but I don't know it. Okay? Part of becoming known, get out of your mind that being a person of interest is just being famous. Like I live in Nashville, and people come to Nashville to become famous. Like I love flying out of the Nashville airport because people come to Nashville with no money, no friends, no clothes. They literally come to Nashville with the clothes on their back and a guitar on their back. And I'll be at the Nashville airport watching one little person come through there with just a guitar. And they're coming to Nashville from some little city. By the way, Garth Brooks, who just played like 9 shows in Nashville, came to Nashville the first time and stayed 23 hours. The city was so brutal on him, he left within 23 hours. Came from Oklahoma, got told no, got beat up in the first day, and turned around and went home back to Oklahoma before a full day was over, okay? But thank goodness he came back. But my point is, get out of your mind that becoming famous is I got to be somebody famous. Famous means known, renowned, celebrated. You could be famous to a small niche of people. You know who you need to be famous to? Your prospects, your clients. That's person of interest. Everybody follow me? You don't have to be famous in the world. You can be, and I'm for you being famous in the world. Some people aspire to be famous in the world, but here's what I say. I don't pray to be famous, I pray to be effective. If I become effective enough, I'll become famous. Everybody follow what I'm saying here? You get better at doing what you do every day, you'll become more famous, okay? So this is what I think money follows. It follows attention, follows energy, follows solutions, and here's the big one. It follows calculated activity, which means specific, intentional, coordinated action. It's part of a plan, okay? So in my opinion, you're not ready to become a person of interest until what? Until you're doing these things. You got a great EOS. You got a great selling system. Because the selling system makes me do what? Move. Circulate. Right? I bought my own plane at Christmas as a Christmas present to myself. And so we flew up here today. And I did that because I couldn't get the opportunity. I was getting booked in multiple cities. I have a 5-year-old daughter. I've got a wife at home, and I didn't want to be away from my daughter, and I signed a major deal with RE/MAX to do all of these big RE/MAX conventions where there's like 1,000 people at these conventions, and I just said, man, I'm not doing it. I'm not signing it unless I can have my own airplane and fly in and fly out, all right? So when Tim called me, I couldn't be here today unless I had that plane because I got to speak tonight outside of Nashville at 5:30. And my point is, what I found, though, is the minute I committed to that, opportunity came along. It's like, hey, can you be in Minnesota and in Denver, and can you do Columbus, Ohio on the same day? Now the answer is what? Yeah, I can now.
By the way, Micheal never sold to me.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I'm just coaching. Everybody follow what I'm saying here? But my point is, when you're thinking about opportunity, I don't think you're ready. We're not ready to be people of interest until we go out and move about the world, right? And we go out and move about the world, what happens is we begin to circulate, and the more we circulate, what happens? Our brand goes up. Thank you. Okay?
Coach Burt, the
Yes.
best musicians, the most famous musicians, the most famous actors, celebrities, usually terrible musicians and terrible actors.
Yeah, that's right. You know what's so funny about that is I used to coach little bitty country music stars that wanted to be big. You know, like they were little baby stars. And they played down on that, like, you know, like in little honky tonks for $40 a night. And it was so funny because I would ask them like what separates you and this person? And they were always quick to tell me who couldn't sing. They'd be like, oh, well, Luke Bryan can't sing at all. And I'm like, well, Luke Bryan made $40 million last year. And you're playing for $41 a night, okay? So he has figured something out that you ain't figured out, okay? But that in their mind, that's all they thought it was just pure talent. They thought, well, look, I've got more talent than he does. No. It has to do with networks and relationships and capital being raised. You understand? There's a lot more to going into being a big star than just having talent. So I guess what I'm telling you is all the things I'm sharing with you are prerequisites to being a person of interest. Are you following me here? Okay? So that's kind of what you're thinking, okay? All right, now let's go back and let's look at a characteristic, because I want you to get clear about this. And this was an old strategic coach thing that we learned. Was that Sullivan used to teach us, he called it the fundamental relationship. And the fundamental relationship was between our unique ability and their problem. We have a unique skill set. We take our unique skill set out into the market and we solve their problem for them, their missing structure. Okay? So we know what their missing structure is. We apply our unique ability to it. It fills that missing structure, and guess what? It produces a predictable outcome. So I begin to say, money only changes hands when problems are solved. And the bigger the problem, the more money people will pay to solve it. So you can wake up and fish for bluegills, like we have these little lakes in Tennessee, and I say you can fish for bluegills in Percy Priest Lake, or you can fish for blue marlins in the Gulf of Mexico. You see the difference? It has to do with your mind thinking in terms of multiples. So when you target people you're going after, you can fish for little bluegills or you can fish for blue marlins. Money changes hands when problems are solved. The bigger the problem, the more money people pay to solve it. Everybody understand that? So if I'm selling a commoditized product, what am I really selling then? At the end of the day, even if the product is similar, you're selling a solution and you're selling your unique skill set. You follow what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So go back to what I said earlier. The differentiator is either your product is better than other people's products. How many people are Apple people in here but think Apple products are actually better than other people's products? How many people believe that? We got one? Anybody else? You got nobody? Okay, good.
I have all Apple, but I don't.
Yeah, okay. Now, here's what's funny. Here's what's funny. I'm reading a great book that you guys would love. Brought it with me on the plane. This book, The Four, The Hidden DNA of Amazon, Apple, Facebook, and Google. Fascinating book. Because it goes into what they're really selling you. Like Apple's selling luxury. It's a status symbol to have an Apple product. They're charging you more money. Right? They're charging you more.
No viruses.
Hey, but they're charging you. That's really what they're selling is luxury. Facebook is selling you desire, seeing what other people have versus what you have. You understand what I mean? It taps into certain emotional needs. Each one of these products, right? Google is like a, you know, it says in the book like a god. Any question you have now, you go to Google. So it fills an emotional need. We're looking at these as products, but they're selling an emotional need. That's how they're selling us. Amazon is what? Have what you want, when you want, at any time you want it. That's right. Anytime. That's so what it taps into is the DNA of these companies. And what I'm trying to show you is that you may sit here and say to me, well, there's other products that are just as good as Apple, right? But then why is Apple as profitable as they are? I mean, in most audiences I ask that question, how many of you have Apple believe Apple is better? Do you know what it typically is? I mean, it's typically a very high percentage, like it's clearly better. Whether it is or not, they just believe it's better. Because it's more expensive and it's luxury, and that is an indicator of status. So I want to stop right here, and I want you to tell the person beside you. Let's take the product out of the equation for right now. And I want you to tell them what you believe your unique skill set that you're selling really is. Okay? Now let me give you an example. I'll go first. My unique skill set, really, outside of being a former championship coach, is I used to call myself a coachepreneur. I'm a cross between how a championship coach thinks. So I have the intensity and the drive of a person who will just flat out push you to another level. That comes from my coaching. But I think like an entrepreneur thinks. So I see everything in assets and liabilities. How do I convert liabilities to assets? So I think like an entrepreneur, but I have the mind of a coach. Everybody with me? Now, that helps me because when I go into teams and a team says we want to go from $1 billion to $2 billion, then the way my mind thinks, based on my formal background and my deep study of Covey, is how do I get this group of people to that number? and I push and I change strategy and I pivot to try to get a group of people to there. So what do? I take very complicated growth and I make it simple. I get large groups or small groups towards some dominant focus they can't get to on their own. And I find and feel 4 big missing structures for people. Everybody with me? See how clear I am about what I do? Notice I didn't say coach in there anywhere. Why would I not say that? Because it's a commodity. How many coaches are there in the world today? Yeah. So now it's a commodity. Everybody's a coach. Whether they have any credentials, background, anything to support it, you could wake up and not do anything and call yourself a coach today. Right? And make a lot of money doing it for a lot of people. So I want you to stop right here and tell the person beside you, what do you think your unique skill set is that you're selling? And if you had to get crystal clear about it, what is it? Take off. Anybody want to share theirs with the group?
I'm going to say trust building.
Okay. How many people believe at the end of the day, when you put all the variables into trust, what are the variables that come to your mind? Because if you are a person of interest, you do realize your reputation walks in the door before you do. Right? I'm going to show you the ingredients of people of interest in a few minutes. And when you see these ingredients, I actually wrote this book, Sitting in Strategic Coach. They don't know what I was really doing when I was back there taking all the notes. I was sitting in Strategic Coach. I actually pay homage to Sullivan in here. I think I talk about it. There's a picture of me and Covey, who was my mentor. I actually had hair back in that picture. But I wrote the book because I thought Sullivan was a person of interest. And I'm sitting in the back of the room wondering, why would people pay this guy $20,000? What does he have that we want? Why would people get on an airplane? A day. Why would people get on an airplane to hear what he has to say? Why would we come from all over the world? Why did I get on an airplane in Nashville and fly to Chicago? What does he have that I want? Was what my question was. What ingredients can I extract from him while I'm in this program? And so I just wrote down person of interest. He's an interesting person, right? People of interest live interesting lives. They hang around interesting people. They make interesting money. They go to interesting places.
They drink Dos Equis.
That's exactly right. They're the most interesting man in the world. But isn't it true that aren't you attracted to interesting people? The opposite of interesting is boring. Okay? You gravitate toward people that live interesting and fascinating lives because they have something unique to share. Okay? So when it comes to trust, I want you to think about trust is and all of these ingredients. But one of the things is I make an assessment very quickly whether I think you are an expert or not. They say if you make a bad first impression, 23 positive interactions to overcome the first negative. We do judge people very quickly, whether it's fair or not. We do judge a book by its cover. We do judge people based on the first conversation. And we can assess whether they know what they're doing or not. We don't need to go 30 rounds to figure this out. Okay? So the trust piece, part of the trust piece is you just scream to me that you are a person of interest. Even when I communicate with you, you're a person of interest. Now, I make up my mind during the sales process to start coaching people. I'm not trying to sell you, I'm trying to coach you. And so what I start doing is start giving you examples. I start, talking about how I would do this with your company, how I would do this, because here's what happens. Here's the sales cycle, guys. I'm an old coach, so I have to draw something. Is opportunity comes in the door, which is a lead, by the way. I consider a lead created opportunity. Now, how did we create the opportunity? There may be multiple ways that you're getting. The podcast may be how opportunity was created. You calling on people may be how opportunity is created. Brand recognition may be. But here's how I know I create opportunity. Money changes hands when problems are solved. So I just go out looking for problems. And where are they? Everywhere. Here's the problem. People can't see the picture when they're inside the frame. So the challenger comes along and says, you really got 3 missing structures you don't even know that you got. And let me show you how I can help you with these missing structures. And if we help you with these 3 missing structures, let me tell you what could happen. This thing could really explode. This thing could be big. So this is where opportunity comes in the door. Now, you don't believe you have a problem creating opportunity, or no? Or yes? Okay. Now, this is a problem for a lot of people. Now, the selling system should help remedy that because you're using multiple strategies to drive opportunity in the door. Everybody with me here? So I think there's 2 types of selling. There is marketing and advertising, which you're spending money on to generate leads, and then there is relationship selling, which is what I teach. Okay? Which is how you go out and block and tackle and call on people and get in front of them and go the distance. But once a lead comes in the door, so the selling system should remedy this, but we got to be clear, we got the opportunity because someone's got a problem. Someone's got a problem, and you know what that problem is. Now, once the opportunity comes in the door, we build rapport, which is just how do we connect and build rapport. We do some discovery, and then we share explanation of services. Okay, so let me stop right here and unpack this one just for a second because this is critical. I really believe when you're with people of interest, they are very clear about what they believe and what they do. How many people have watched the Simon Sinek Start With Why? If you haven't, you need to watch the YouTube video. It's 18 minutes long. Simon Sinek Start With Why.
Simon
Sinek, S-I-N-E-K. Start with why. You could start with wine and then watch it, but start with why. Now, here's what's interesting. This is where he shows us the law of innovation, the law of infusion, diffusion, and innovation, which is fascinating to me. He talks about when you're going out into the marketplace and you're trying to sell anything, that there will be 2.5% of the people which are innovators. And in a sales cycle, I say an innovator needs to see something one time. You don't have to do a dissertation. An innovator is like, I like it, let's go. But then there is 13.5% of the population which are early adopters. I think an early adopter needs to see something 1 to 3 times. Everybody with me here? Now, these are the people I'm looking for. This percentage, which is about 15 to 16%, are the people I'm looking for. If I could just figure out who the other people were up front, it'd be a whole lot easier, wouldn't it? Then it moves into 34% of the people are what's called early majority. I think these people have to see something 3 to 7 times. Then there's what's called late majority. These people have to see something 7 to 15 times. Then over here, this is 34% by the way. Over here is, I think, 16% are laggards. I have another word for laggards. They are losers. They are still using flip phones. These people will never, ever buy, no matter how many times. No matter how many times. Okay, I'm just kidding with you, man. My dad used a flip phone if it makes you feel better. But my point is real simple. How many of y'all have spent 6, 7, 10, 12, 15 months with a person only for them never to buy anything from you? What if you knew very quickly? So how do I know very quickly?
Have to ask.
Because here's my point. When I do the math on this is why I'm so fascinated by this. Out of every 30 people I pitch, it tells me that only 4.8 are right here. That means I have to go through 30 people to find 4.8 that get it quick and move. So my big coaching program has about 400 people in it, but let's just see at 350. Here's what the numbers tell me. If I've got 350 people that are in the program, 52.8 are going to be the highest money earners. They're going to be the people who are most likely to take my concepts fast. They're the ones I want to partner with. These are the ones that are going to make the most money, create the most opportunity. 52.8 of the 350. So should I spend time with the other folks? Sure. But what should my expectation be?
1 in 7.
That's right. So, and when I look at that, my mind sees it in a sales cycle too. I see it as when I go out. So my question to you would be, when I'm selling, in the selling cycle, how do I know who's in that first percentile that I'm looking for? Right here, I lead with what I believe and see if they believe it too. And if I do, I keep going. And if I don't, I stop. So let me give you the 6 steps of a good EOS, okay? Because I think this is really going to help. Step 1, tell me what you believe. So what I mean by that is don't sit down and tell me how great the product or service is. After we build rapport, this is very critical. You don't sit down and go, hey, let me tell you what I believe here. And I've had some people try to do that. Number one, just after you and I build rapport and we've talked about the weather and life and kids, and then there's going to be what I call a moment of truth. Everybody know when that moment is, when you're in front of a person and they're like, what? Go.
Silence.
You're here. I know why you're here. I know you're going to pitch me. Go. At that moment, I like to say, well, I typically say, well, let me tell you, there's really 2 or 3 things that I believe. I believe everybody needs a good coach in life. I believe this, I believe that, right? If I'm working with operations teams, I say I believe operations is the single greatest advantage that a company can have. If I'm working with blue-collar workers, I would say I believe that blue-collar workers in this country get the least amount of training and are the most neglected of any group in America. I'm not manipulating. I do believe that, right? I just have a whole bunch of beliefs. I can pivot on those beliefs. I believe in attracting business versus chasing it. Okay, so I sit down, and what am I looking for when I'm sharing those beliefs?
Acknowledgement.
I'm looking right in your eyeballs, and I'm making up my mind. If you're looking at me like this, then in my mind I'm going, would I rather know in 15 seconds or chase you for 15 months? Right? Now, second piece, tell me why you believe it. So tell me what you believe. Step 2, tell me why you believe it. And I've kind of already subliminally shared that with you. I believe you can't see the picture when you're inside the frame. So I told you what I believed, and I kind of share with you why I believed it. Okay? Step 3, tell me what it is you really do. Tell me what it is you really do. And keep it simple. Like, get very clear about what it is you do. Remember me saying I take complicated growth and make it simple? I get groups of people towards some dominant focus they may not be able to get to on their own. See how clear that is? Just pretend like I don't know. Okay? Next step is the zebra. Write out zebra besides this one. Tell me how you do it different.
Cheetahs eat zebras, right?
You know, I have been asked that question. Typically they could, but typically I don't think they do. I don't think they get up and kind of pursue zebras, but maybe. Chebra. Okay, so I attack this elephant in the room right up front. I'm sure you're wondering how I do it different than everybody else. See what I'm saying? I just attack it. Instead of them asking me, how do you do it different? I just go right at it. Okay, now, next one. Tell me who you've done it for. Now, don't freak out about this. You know, sometimes you can and cannot share who you've worked with. If you can share who you've worked with, you may say, we've done this for a company just like yours. I just worked with someone just the other day just like you. You don't have to necessarily share the names unless you want to. Like, a lot of times I will share names. I work with this company and this company and this company. That just is social proof. And if you study persuasion, the science of persuasion, there's 6 tenets of persuasion. One of those is social proof. So you're just kind of saying, this is who else we're working with. Okay? Now, last point, step number 6, which is very critical, is the ask. If I could do this for you, just like we've done it for all these other people, what would stop us from moving forward? Now, that may be just to another meeting. It may be to pitch to another person. It's not always to make a sale, but it is movement.
Yeah, can you introduce me to this?
Yeah, can you introduce me to the key person? It seems like everything's going good here. See, to me, without the ask, I mean, you know, if you've got conviction, you should ask. Okay? Now, at that moment, I want you to see what's going to happen in the sales cycle. They're either going to show interest, which starts the sales cycle of 7 touches, or they're going to object. So what are the typical objections you hear? Because this is real critical. I believe this is one of the most overlooked, undertaught things in the sales system that cost companies millions of dollars. Most people, the relationship builder, will just roll over when they get objection. Oh, I understand you got somebody. I understand you're already working with them. I'll check. When would you like for me to check back? That's what a relationship builder would say. check back 6 months from now. And what they'll do is, let me go to my calendar 6 months from now. When exactly do you want me to call? A relationship builder will supplicate. A big-time professional would never let a person off the hook that easy. Yes or no? Do you have conviction in you or not? Right? If you told me you wanted to wait 6 months to start your coaching program, what do you think I would tell you? Why would we wait 6 months? Can't we both agree that momentum is just energy headed in one direction or another? You're going to be like most people if you wait 6 months, which means you're going to think about it for 6 months. We're going to get started 6 months from now, which means you won't be implementing what I'm teaching until 9 months, which means you're not even going to reap the benefits of this till next year. Why would we do that? I'm going to challenge you. When you give me some fluff answer, I'm going to push back on you. Now, so let me give you what the steps right here that I use, okay? This is real critical. How many of you reach objection? What are the objections you hear?
Don't need to right now.
Say again?
We don't do that.
We don't do that, okay? Maybe they don't. Maybe that's true. So there are some valid objections.
Well, that's not, why aren't you doing it?
Okay, I got you. So the challenger would say, well, why are you not doing it? Because you need to be doing it, okay? But you don't want to challenge a person right out of the gate. Like one of my favorite guys is a guy named Chris Voss. Chris Voss wrote Never Split the Difference, #1 FBI hostage negotiator. And I had him on my podcast, and we're going back and forth about negotiating. And one of the things you never want to ask a person is why. When you ask them why they're not doing something, it immediately puts them in a defensive posture. Now you're adversarial with each other. So you can ask how questions, but never why. You follow me? So you don't want to jump right out of the gate and just like attack a person. You want to work them through the cycle. So here's a cycle I want you to start practicing when you get objection. And just give it a shot, okay? Just give it a shot. Number one, I want you to, really 1 and 2 go together. I want you to listen and acknowledge. I don't care what they say, how crazy it is. I want you to agree with them. I want you to agree with them. I understand. Hey, we already got somebody we're working with. I understand. I value loyalty in my life too, right? What are some other objections you get? You said one.
We don't need you right now. They're not buying anything that we sell right now.
Okay, I understand. I can see why you wouldn't need us right now. See how I agree with them right up front? Now, why would I do that? When two people are in agreement, that's the first step. I don't want to get adversarial with you. I understand. I can see why you would come to that conclusion. So I listen and I acknowledge, okay? Third step is I isolate. This is the most critical step in my opinion. And when I isolate, I ask a question. Is there any other reason outside of this one thing that is keeping you from moving forward with us? Is there any other reason outside of this one? Now, why would I ask it that way? Okay? Let me tell you why. Because people lie. That's why. Okay? They lie to you. They lie to you because why? They don't want to hurt your feelings. You seem like a nice person. You showed up. You're well dressed. You've been polite. You took time out of your day. So I don't tell you the truth. I just give you some fluff thing. Well, let me think about it. Let me talk about it. So I don't make this decision. Somebody else makes this decision. We're not making any buying decisions right now. I understand. Okay? Is there any other reason outside of the timing of this that would keep you from moving forward with us? What I'm trying to figure out is, are they telling me the truth? And if they say, no, this is the only reason, now I know what the real objection is. Sometimes they balk. They go, well, I'm not really the one that makes this decision. I can't overcome the objection until I found the objection. Right? So I listen, I acknowledge, I isolate, I validate. That's step 4. If I could show you a way that it would make sense to move forward right now with this versus waiting 6 months, would you at least listen to it? Okay? If I could show you how we could increase this part, you would move forward with this, right? And so I'll come back and I'll take that objection, I'll put it over here, and I'll attack it. I'll isolate over here, and I'll just go right at it. So you're telling me if I could show you a way to do that, you would be open to talking about it, right? Yeah, I'd be open to talking about it if you could show me how we can make this much more money if we use your product. Okay, good. Now, let's say they still stall on me. This is where the challenger comes in. Step 5 is I challenge the prospect. And I don't do it in a negative way. If I am trying to be the person of interest I'm teaching you, I should be able to push you just a little bit. One of the major tenets of the challenger sale is creative tension, right? which means it's okay if I challenge you just a little bit, and you may not like it, but you may leave here and go, man, that guy was right. He is right. I just haven't thought about it. See, I don't see this enough. There's not enough people that challenge me during the day. They'll give me something, I'll put up a little roadblock, they'll just quit. And I'm like, that's it? I told you no, and you just quit on the first time? Like, you didn't fight for your idea at all. You didn't fight to overcome my objection at all. You just rolled over. Come back and make a valid argument for why you think I should do this. Not just one time. Okay? I mean, so a professional person of interest is going to sit there and go, look, I can understand why you'd want to wait on this, or why you don't think you need this. Okay? But then they'd come back with a little jab. Not a negative way. See, a lot of people associate challenger with aggressive. And so they immediately tune it out, like, oh, I could never be that aggressive. If you're a person of interest, should you not be able to challenge another person's assumptions? Yes or no?
Sure.
That's reframing. So I listened to you, and I started going down this road. You're an expert, and you just reframe me. You say, look, I can understand. Would you be willing to look at it from this perspective? Right? So I'm negotiating with a big mortgage company this year. First words out of the CEO's mouth is, I feel like the market's going to be down some. We'd really like to bring the coaching fees down just a little bit. So go through. We're completely satisfied with you. You've been our coach for the last 2 or 3 years. I just feel like the market's going to slow down just a little bit. So we'd like to actually decrease the coaching fees. So use my formula and tell me what I did. Step 1 is I did what?
I understand.
I understand.
I understand how you can feel.
Yeah, I understand. Okay? What else would I say? Is there any other reason outside of the market you feeling like the market's going to go down that you want to decrease the coaching? No, we just feel like it's going to be, we actually like to decrease it. If I could show you a way that we could actually do a better job coaching your people at a rate similar to what you're currently paying and decrease the slippage we had this year, would you be open to hearing that? Sure. And let me ask you one other question. Here's the challenge. If you do feel like the market's going to slow it down, why would you decrease the very thing that would create a stimulus? Can't we both agree that when markets go down, your people got to get better? They can't get better if they're not getting coached. Can't we both agree there? Yeah. You know what we did? We signed a bigger contract. Now, but when I hear objection, listen, when I hear objection from my daughter who's 5 years old, Daddy, can I stay up till 9:30 versus 9 o'clock? I understand why you'd want to do that. Sometimes Daddy likes to stay up till 9:30. Is there any other reason outside of this one show that you'd like to watch tonight? No, just this one show. Can't we both agree, sweetheart, that when you don't go to bed like you're supposed to, that you're grouchy and moody in the morning and you're tired of gymnastics? Can't we both? You know what she says? You're right, Dad. I'll go to bed. That's how easy it is. You follow me? So this carries over all parts of your life, okay? Don't think this is a personal growth seminar. Yes?
7 and 2-year-old.
Yeah.
You're dealing with Walmart.
Yeah, I get it, man. Trust me, and I get it. But here's what I'm saying. When I'm dissecting the sales cycle, what I'm trying to train our people on is, look, let's take this whole thing and break it down to where it is a science, where we are very good at each part of this equation. Now, this is the touches. So explain the difference between a linear and a nonlinear touch. I mentioned it earlier.
You're going directly at them,
Yep.
asking again.
Mhm.
The other, you're coming on the side and kind of reminding them.
That's right. And the purpose of the nonlinear is to make you think. So I want you to imagine, I'm out in the world, I'm moving fast, right? Picture you trying to sell to me today. I'm on an airplane, I'm trying to get back to speak, I'm here with you, and you trying to hit me during the day and sell me something. What you want to do is send me something that says, hey coach, take a minute and look at this, because it's going to blow your mind. Something that makes me stop and think. Follow back up with me. Hey coach, did you see that? Did you see what I sent you the other day? Because you really need to watch this. Challenge me some. Don't just give up. Now, if you overcome the objections, they say yes, now you've got a new client, right? When's the best time to ask for referrals? Which we're going to do from this day forward, right? In the beginning. In the beginning. Okay? There's your objection. You overcome it. Now, this is the referral zone. If you do a great job, guess what happens? You go from a promoter to an advocate. And an advocate's a person that will fight for you in the market. If this works like it should and you deliver on the promise that you made up here during the EOS, they should advocate for you, which should feed you more people. Is there any questions about the sales cycle? Now, how does person of interest help this whole thing now? If you're a true person of interest, let me show you the ingredients.
Is it this side?
It definitely helps this. Because I want you to think of famous. I think I've got it in here. Okay? This is being famous. When more people know you than you know them. Known, renowned, celebrated for something you're interesting to the market, you create perception and buzz versus stagnation. Actually, what it does is it drives more opportunity in the door because you're known. It also helps you over here because the higher your person of interest score is, probably the more confidence you're going to have. So when you do challenge a person, they're going to be like, man, he's right. He's right. Okay? When I get coached by people, they ask me very hard questions. Do you want to be big time or not? So you're telling me, right? You're telling me you'd rather stay where you are, or you'd rather go over here. Because to go over here, here's what you got to do. I was getting coached by these two guys out of New York City, and they said, you know what your biggest problem is? The reason you'll never be a big time person is you won't sell out. I said, what do you mean sell out? They said, you are too much of an educator and coach. You won't get into edutainment, which is where the world wants today. They want 9 minutes of entertainment and 1 minute of education. You are 9 minutes of education and 1 minute of entertainment. So think Dr. Phil, think Steve Harvey, think these people that are more entertainment with a little bit of education in there. You with me? So they said until you sell out, you'll never be mainstream, big time. And that's part of your problem. Is that you can't. You ever go to a Tony Robbins workshop? Spend 3 days at Tony Robbins? Is it entertainment or education?
It is amazing.
It is. But it's a lot of entertainment.
A lot of entertainment.
Entertainment, music, drama, right? It's a lot of entertainment with education pumped in there. Robbins has figured this out, though. That's why he's getting 10,000 people in there. So my point to you is that's the hard coaching they give me, okay? So when I'm on big shows or whatever, they give me very critical feedback. Like, you didn't do this, you didn't say this, you didn't do that. I don't have a chance to say, oh, I wish I could do better. They're like, suck it up, Buttercup. Do you want to be good or not? You see what kind of coaching I get? I mean, right? It's like direct. It's like, suck it up, man. This is pitiful. So let me show you the ingredients of person of interest. And this is where we'll kind of end up today. Okay? Hope they got some Cheetos on that plane, man. I'm getting hungry. So when I'm looking at a person of interest, I wrote this as aspiring. You know, I want to be one of these people. I want to become a person of interest. I want to go out and attract people. I want to be interesting to the world. I began looking at the ingredients, and you can actually see the covey coming out of me because this is mind, body, heart, spirit. Body, mind, heart, spirit. All 4 parts of a person's nature. Knowledge, skill, desire, confidence. Knowledge, skill, desire, confidence. If you're ever coaching a person or you're trying to dissect where you're missing, it's in one of those 4 areas typically. Your knowledge, your skill, your desire, or your confidence. Everybody with me? When I was coaching those girl basketball players, what good is it to have skill with no confidence? What good is it to have desire with no skill? You see how we're dissecting a person? And we're going, look, if I could help this person in this one area, they would blow up. Knowledge for the mind, skill for the body, desire for the heart, confidence for the spirit. But I was coaching an investment banker in Memphis, Tennessee who wasn't selling anything. And the CEO of the company called me and said, so-and-so is not selling anything, and I need to know why, and you're coaching him. And I said, let me dissect what his problem is. And I began looking at this perspective. And I said, man, the guy's got knowledge. He knows this inside and out. He has skill. He has desire. He's making calls. He's working the selling system. He's got confidence coming out of his ears. And then I said, oh, I know what his problem is. He's not likable. And I told the CEO that, and guess what he said? You got to tell him. So we're paying you. Tell him he's not likable. I'm like, okay. So I call him and I say, are you open to some feedback? Are you open to some coaching? He said, yes, sir. Believe in you, come to your trainings, read your books. I said, man, you have knowledge, you have skill, you have desire, you have confidence, but I need you to work in a key area for me. I need you to smile more. I need you to have better energy when you're around people. I need you to be happy for other people, and on and on. And then I said, I need you to do one more thing for me. He said, what's that, coach? Anything for you. I said, I need you to get out of sales altogether. Just kidding. I didn't say that part. In the South, we think it, but we don't say it. But he lasted 3 more months. He lasted 3 more months and they fired him. And it was because he did not have this. This is energy. This is circulation. This is just meet and greet. This is positivity. This is, you understand what I'm saying? So when I'm looking at people of interest, it's actually interesting to me. Now, one of these can outweigh the other one. Like I even look at Sullivan. Sullivan I don't think is always that likable, but his knowledge set is so strong and his skill is so incredible. You can actually outweigh one or the other. Everybody follow me? If you're a real freak of nature genius, okay, then some of the top people I coach are not that likable because they're just, they want to be to themselves and they don't want to talk to people and I get it. But they're like, that is a freak of nature. Like that person is a true monster producer. Okay? So they can be that way if they need to be. But what if they were kind of likable and they did have all of this stuff? What would they do? Right? That's how you need to look at it. So when you're looking at yourself, okay, just think about this. Knowledge, skill, desire. I'll come back to this one. Confidence, likability. This is the ability to connect to people. I say good for all time zones. You're good for all time zones. You can connect to a person here. You can connect to a person here. People can connect to you easily. This is very critical. All people of interest have very deep networks. Deep networks. They get lost in other people's dreams. They build out top 25s. They're very strong. Now, what do you think this one is? Remember the old Cracker Jack days where you buy a box of Cracker Jacks for the little gift that was inside of it? Anybody remember that? As guys, we used to buy, you're like, no, I don't remember that. That was, we're not that old, I promise. But as guys, we used to buy baseball cards for the bubble gum inside. And the bubble gum was awful. It was awful.
Break your teeth.
But Lucky Charms had the little gift inside. I mean, McDonald's has the little Happy Meal gift. The free prize is actually really interesting to me. It's an intangible many times. It can be a tangible. It can be a tangible. But I think this is where the differential is. It's like we bring something to the party nobody else brings. And it could be your knowledge, your skill, your desire, your confidence, your likability. But it is something that I get through a relationship with you I can't get with your competitor. If it's high trust selling, if it's, man, you're just money in the bank. When you say you're going to do it, you follow through. If the products are the same, even if the product's more expensive, there's something about you that I can't get somewhere else. Sometimes I can't even describe it. It's just something I feel, right? Like an intangible. I wrote a book on that called Intangibles. I wrote it for teams because the great teams have things you can't measure, but you can feel. Trust, chemistry, likability, these intangibles that you can't measure. It's like, man, they just got it. Do you know that the teams in the NBA that win the most high-five each other the most? They touch the most. The teams that win the least in the NBA, this is statistically proven. They don't high-five, they don't touch each other, they don't pat each other on the back. The teams that win the most touch the most.
Who's gonna high five their teammate if they just got their asses kicked?
Yeah, that's true. Well, that's why they're getting their ass kicked though, because they don't ever do that. But you understand what I'm saying? Listen. Watch a sports team. Watch the body language of sports teams that are bad. How they keep their head down, very selfish. Don't look at their coaches. Watch great teams win, and watch the chemistry between them. You can produce the same thing at work. We have the most fun in my office when we're all in the office together selling. We're all on the phones. We're all helping each other. And we'll get done at the end of the day, have a huge sales day, like a record day. And we'll all say the same thing. Man, that was awesome. That was so much fun. Us all helping each other sell and pushing and doing something we didn't think we could do. And it was just a day. We've sold more in a day. Sometimes we sold in the other 30 days of the month. Just because we're all in there having fun together. I mean, it's really interesting, right? So for you, you're sitting there looking at that going, what is the missing ingredient I have? That's how I want you looking at this. What do I lack? We all have missing structures. Sometimes we can't see those missing structures because we're too close, we're too emotional, we're too biased. But these are the ingredients of people of interest.
Can you explain connectivity a little bit?
Yeah, I think connectivity could be two ways. In today's digital world, connectivity is access. In a digital world, how we connect. Like I've watched this program, Monster Producer. We started with 4 or 5 people in Monster Producer. It started off as a concept called XQ, which was execution quotient. And I did it with 4 people. And I would say today there's almost 400 people in there. And it is a tribe of people that are deeply connected. And I watch how they connect with each other. Private Facebook groups. They're reaching out to each other for business. It has become a incubator for greatness because these people are feeding off of each other. And I'm watching how they connect. So in a digital world, it's like I have a tribe of people and I am connecting with that tribe on a consistent basis. Like I touch those people sometimes 9 to 12 times in a month. It is high. I don't believe in customer service. I believe in customer engagement. So I'm constantly feeding this machine, blogs, videos, Facebook group, database blasts, events, and I'm just feeding. And so what's happening as a result of that is it is growing at a clip of like 200%. It's growing at a rapid clip. So the connectivity is just off the chart, especially with what? Those innovators and early adopters. So you get 52, 53 people on board with something and watch what happens. Cynic will talk about 16% being a tipping point. When you get 16% of a group on board, what happens? So one version of connectivity is that. Is you have a tribe and you are just connecting that energy. If you ever go to a great concert, you notice how the entertainer is energy back and forth between the audience? Well, that's one form of connectivity. The other form of connectivity is I could put you in any room with anybody and you could find a way to connect to them. And I don't care how smart you are, I have seen people be incredibly smart that cannot connect to that person. And because of that, it decreases your ability to sell. So in Tennessee, I say, could you sell to a farmer or could you sell to a person wearing a $5,000 suit? Right? I remember when I signed a big contract in New Jersey, everybody was skeptical in Tennessee if I could go up to Jersey with my southern accent. And I went up to Jersey and coached the largest bank in New Jersey, and I had the most fun. Once they got past the southern accent and we really connected, it was so much fun. But they sell more direct. I was too soft. I was too southern. I was too right? I needed to get tougher. I mean, their EOS looks like this. I believe by the end of this conversation, you and I are going to be doing business with each other. These are investment bankers. And I was like, what? Where's the rest of the EOS? The number one guy said, there is no rest. That is it.
No rapport.
Yeah. No rapport. That's it. I'm like, okay. But I got so much better by going up there.
Was his last name Soprano?
Yeah. I think he did get in a little bit of trouble, that guy. But, whatever. So my point to you is I did learn a lot, and I toughened up. So don't be scared of that challenger concept. Don't say, well, I'm a relationship builder and I've been taught my whole life to be. These are not mutually exclusive. You can be a challenger and a relationship builder simultaneously. Okay. Does anybody have any questions? I know it feels like you drink water out of a fire hydrant.
So the thing that we talk about a lot is trust. Okay. That's not on your person of interest.
Yeah.
Right? And maybe not saying it should be, but in that sales process and in the way that we engage with people,
Yep.
we do have to go through that trust cycle.
Yeah.
How do you
I actually think it's a byproduct of these things.
a byproduct? Okay.
You know, Sullivan always talked about strategic byproducts. I think when you have these things, trust comes. Trust is a function of trustworthiness. Right? Like in a modern world, in the current of the urgent, we don't have as much time as we used to get across to another person. Like, I can trust you. Very few people have that kind of time in today's world. So the way you identify that trust very quickly, in my opinion, is when you sit down, the first thing that shows me is you got a great explanation of services, and I'm like, man, this guy's good. And my trust goes up. Like, right? Now, based on personalities, we had to do the Colby Index. I'm a quick start. I make an assessment of a person pretty quickly. And I take action on something very quickly. I don't have to see it multiple times. If I like it, I typically take action. If I've not seen enough to take action, I'll typically tell you I haven't seen enough to make a decision on this. But when you sit down and have a great EOS, the very first thing I know is my trust meter goes up. And it has to do with the brain. The front part of the brain is the Broca, the croc brain, that's scared of everything. When it is in a defensive posture, it's leery. It's like, I'm not sure if this guy's really good or not, or this girl's really good or not, right? When you have a great EOS, I think it calms that croc brain down. I think the neocortex gets involved. And I think where I'm processing information, I'm like, man, they're good. I'm interested. Tell me more. Tell me more. Trust goes up. You follow me? So you're not a salesperson showing up to sell me something. You are really a person showing up with an incredible skill set that I am attracted to. And because of that, I move towards you versus away from you. You are a person of interest to me. So I think it is a byproduct of all of those things.
That happened last night when I talked to you.
People have never had time to trust. I mean, we make snap decisions because, you know, back in the Stone Age, you met a new person, you had to know right away whether or not they're going to hit you in the...
But when you are a person of interest and your reputational capital is strong, the trust is high. And you're already known. You're already known in some circles. Now, some of us have to become known. I had to come to Chicago today for you to know who I was. What's the likelihood of us doing business with each other before I came up here today? You see? So I do a lot of things to become better known because I believe there's a return on investment and a return on objective. I sometimes sell return on objective, which means I try to get you out of a conversation about return on investment and into a conversation of, if I could, you tell me what your objective is, and if I could drive that objective for you, it most likely will drive your investment. What if my objective is to become famous? Because I believe money follows attention. Then I may take some actions that just make me more famous because I believe opportunity will follow becoming more famous. Everybody with me? That's the objective. Okay? I'm speaking at a conference here in a few months called 10X in Vegas. There's supposed to be 10,000 people there at Mandalay Bay.
Supposed to be Grant Cardone?
It is. And part of the way I got that is I made a calculated bet on myself. I went to Cardone, who's a friend of mine, who endorsed all of my books, and I said, how can I help you with this conference? And he said, I just wrote a check for $4 million to Mandalay Bay to secure the arena. And I bought almost every hotel room in the whole place. And I said, if I buy $100,000 worth of tickets, will that increase the probability that I speak on that stage? And he said, absolutely. Because I need all the speakers to help me. And I said, I'll take it. And I wrote a check for $100,000. And I came back and sold those tickets, packaged them into an offer that included my coaching program and a 10X ticket and all these other things. And I turned around and sold all 50 of those tickets, or at least 47 of them to date. But what was my real objective? The objective was to get in front of 10,000 people, because what could that do for our business? Everybody with me? Now, there may be a return, there may not be. But I can't help but just to think that the pure notoriety alone will help our brand. Everybody follow me? Because I make some decisions based on objectives, not on return on investment.
We do that too.
Okay. There you go.
In our own little way.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So sometimes if a person's sitting there pinning you down on return on investment, you try to shift that conversation to the objective. Well, you told me you wanted this. You told me you were unhappy with this. Okay? Well, guys, listen, thank you for your time today. I know it went fast, but I really appreciate you reaching out to me last week and your friendship and everything. This is one of the smartest guys I've ever met. He used to freak me out because he's so smart. I'd fly up to Chicago and meet with him, and I would come back and he'd tell at that time, my girlfriend, now she's my wife, and I would say, man, this guy's kind of scares me. You know, in a good way. I'm like, he's so smart. You know, we used to meet at the Mid-America building. And we go up there and overlook everything. And I said, man, I just really enjoy working with him because his mind is just working at such a pace. So I'm really proud that he's working with you guys. And hopefully this won't be our last time together. So I did bring you a copy of Person of Interest. I'm going to give that to you for today. And we can dig in deeper and hopefully we'll meet sometime in the future, okay? Now, I will close with this. If you would like to get an email from me, I do send out a weekly strategy every Wednesday. It's got my podcast in there. If you're a big podcast person, my podcast is called Super Coach. 2 words. So if you like podcasts, I know there's a lot of podcast junkies out there in the world. My YouTube channel, Coach Micheal Burt, has over Jack 1,000 videos. Over 1,000 videos. I put a lot of content out in the world. But if you want, any of those things that you're interested in, I'd love to just keep engaging with you. I don't want this to be the end of our relationship. Fair enough?
Great.
All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you.